Think about this for a moment. What if you are living in a simulated universe? But not only that, your friends, your parents, your kids, your partner, your colleagues at work are not actually real, and you're the only person who is real, quote unquote, in your simulation, and you are the main character. Now, this is a theory known as solipsism. I think I pronounced that correctly, which is a sort of a subsection of the simulated theory. And it might be a bit depressing initially. I hope you can hear me okay. Got a load of parakeets flying around in the park here. It might be a bit depressing because you think, well, crikey, am I the only person on this planet, in this universe? But of course, you can still interact with everybody. You can still talk to them in the normal sense. But they could be NPCs, as they call them in computer games, or non-player characters. And as I say, you are the main character. But the thing I want you to think about is how you would do things differently. And what risks would you take? What things would you do that you wouldn't normally do because you're so worried about the consequences? If you knew that, A, this was just a simulated universe, we're just in a simulation, and you are the main character. So, for example, one of the the fourth most common phobia after, I think, spiders, the dark, I've forgotten what the other one was, heights probably. The fourth one, in the UK anyway, is the fear of public speaking, which is kind of weird in some respects, but when I think about it, if you're at school or at work and you're asked to do a presentation, straight away everybody clams up. Now, funny enough, my job is I'm an IT trainer, so I pretty much do presentations every single day. But I can remember the first time having to do that in front of a class it was 9 people in the first company that I worked for, and these were all paying people that paid for Word training, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. And I was absolutely terrified. And even though now I've been doing that for like 26 years, there are still times when I get nervous about that and apprehensive, which is perfectly natural. It just means that you actually care. If you weren't nervous about anything, it probably meant you don't really care about the outcome. But I remember one particular time I had to do this presentation, and I had to stand up it was in an auditorium, and I had to stand up on a plinth with a microphone and everything, and there was about 100 people watching, and it was pretty damn scary, even though by that point I'd probably been training about 20 odd years. And I think at that time I'd heard about this simulation theory, and I thought, well, first of all, if I'm in a simulation, does it really matter if my face goes a bit red, or I look a bit stupid, or I say the wrong words, etc.? But even more so, if you are the only person in this simulation, effectively what you're doing is, it's like you're presenting to yourself. You're presenting to other versions of yourself. So if you knew that every person in your character was just another part of you, just a reflection of you, would you really be that scared? Would you be that apprehensive? Because first of all, if they don't even exist, they're not even real characters, it's almost silly that you would be afraid of the consequences, or afraid of what they might think about you, or afraid if your face goes red, or afraid if you forget your words. And when you start to think about this, there's so many different areas that you can apply this to. And this is why you keep hearing people that are very successful talking about how important mindset is. And we all understand that mindset is important, but I don't think maybe we always really fully understand it to the core, deep down. Let's say you're a salesperson. If there's one thing a lot of salespeople hate, or if you're wanting to start your own business, is cold calling. Now, cold calling is still a good way to get business. Obviously you can do things on the internet now. You can, like I'm doing right now, you can create YouTube videos to try and attract people. But sometimes you can't beat just picking up the phone and calling them. And within seconds, you can potentially be talking to the business owner. But you have to be prepared for a lot of rejection. A lot of people, you're interrupting their day. Some business owners, they get cold calls all day long. And there's just that fear of picking up the phone and calling them and worrying about what they're going to think about you. But again, if they're not really real in the true sense, then what have you got to worry about? Maybe you're in a relationship for the first time, and there's certain aspects of that you've not experienced before, that you've not done before, and you're nervous about it. But again, the ironic thing about anything that you're nervous about is it's the nerves and your fear of the outcome that quite often hinders what it is you're trying to achieve. And I appreciate that, like anything, whatever you do, the more times you do it, and this again, this goes for anything in life, the more times you do it, and I'm saying this with a bit tongue-in-cheek, but you're just going to get better at it. And then you're going to realize that afterwards, you think, what was I worrying about? Have you ever had a new job and then you're so concerned about what's going to happen on the first day? And I'm terrible for that. I mean, it's been probably 10 years since I've started a new job, but I do tend to stay at jobs for quite a long time. But we all go through all these scenarios like, oh dear, I'm going to get lost and I'm not going to know who to talk to, and I can't find the coffee machine, and I'm not going to use the photocopier, and all this crazy stuff, all these scenarios that you go through. And then when you come down to it and you get there, and you get in there, and 99 out of 100 times everyone's really nice, they're welcoming. Maybe you just sort of spent most of the day going around meeting people or having some sort of induction. So again, it's a lot of the time it's all in your mind. I think I saw a statistic. Now, statistics, they sometimes you wonder where they get these statistics from, or how scientific they are. But sometimes, even if it's not 100% true, as long as it's useful to you, you can take these concepts. I think I saw somewhere that I think it was 95% of concerns that you have about something that's going to happen in the future just doesn't happen. We dream up problems that are going to happen. We invent scenarios that 9 out of 10 times never actually materialize anyway. So I'd really like you to play with this and just imagine if you've got something that's coming up that you're worried about, something that you've got to do, anything that you're concerned about, even if you're someone that has been indoors for a long time. This was very common after the pandemic. People were nervous about going outside. I remember going out shopping for the first time after we'd been in lockdown for a few weeks. And even that felt weird. It's amazing what your brain gets used to. So even if it's something like that, just imagine for a moment that you are in this simulation. We're in a computer. None of this is kind of real. Even this tree behind me could be a projection. Now, the only reason why I can see that tree, and that tree exists, you could argue, is because I'm seeing it in my camera. But if I turn like so, the tree disappears and I can no longer see it. How do we really know? How can I prove that even exists? And again, this is why the simulation theory to me seems very plausible, because in the same way, in a computer game, when you're not looking something in the game, it doesn't exist until you turn around and then the computer renders that graphic. So play around with this, and if you've got something that you're worried about, think just for that day, even just for that moment, just suspend disbelief and think, well, none of this is real, so what's the worst that can happen anyway? So I hope you've got something out of this video. Drop a like if you think, does this resonate with you, or let me know if there's something that you've got coming that you're worried about. I'd love to chat about it in the comments. Please give me a like as well. And at the point of recording this video, I've got a whopping 3 subscribers. So if you would subscribe, that would really help me out, because, anything that you can do to support me would be greatly appreciated. So thanks very much for listening. Take care, and I will see you soon.